What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Not necessarily backed by popular demand, but it was mentioned because we didn't do it. And shout outs to, I believe it was Ric Flair that said, yo, why don't you do your top, what are your top 5 shows? And I really didn't think about it. And I was like, word, yo, because there are some shows that I'm really looking forward to seeing. One of them has already started, which was Night Agent. So it's not on my list, but I am watching it, and so far, I there are little issues that I have with it, but I'm fine. The stunt choreographers here for the fighting is excellent.
Yeah, they're always good for the shock value bump. I feel like it's watching WWE in the Attitude Era. It's like he always comes up with some hit or some finishing move where I'm like, oh man, that looks like it hurt.
The broken collarbone. I was like, yep, that sounds right. That sounds right. Top 5 anticipated shows this year. I have my 5. I don't have any honorable mentions. I was looking through the list of the shows coming out this year, and 5 stood out as for sure. Okay. I don't think I have any honorable mentions. I'm pretty sure you do, Brian, because you have.
I got a lot of show. This one was much harder for me. I disqualified anything that had just started. For the record, so I've finished it. Night Agent season 2 would not have made my list. I think it was a step down from season 1. I think there's some stuff that I didn't necessarily enjoy.
We should talk about it one day. Yes,
as the first season. So would not have made my list anyway. Would have made the list before the show came out. But I have started The Recruit season 2. I disqualified that. I enjoy that show as well. It's kind of a little offbeat, but I think Noah Centineo is pretty good in that. I disqualified Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man because we'll talk about that, but that's underway. First 2 episodes out. I will say I started watching Paradise the other day with Sterling K. Brown as the lead Secret Service agent for President James Marsden, from the creator of This Is Us. I was interested. The first episode, I've only seen 1 episode, but I would say I recommend it's worth people checking out because there's some twists. So that was, and the way it's structured, I was interested in. So that's one that's just out there. I watched an episode of Prime Target on Apple TV. Also moderately interested in that. It's about like a math genius that's sort of trying to find what turns out to be, I guess, like sinister conspiracy patterns within numbers and within prime numbers that leads him on some sort of contrived wild goose chase. But anyway, reasonable first episode. I have not gotten to American Primeval yet from Peter Berg, but that looks, and starring Taylor Kitsch, but that actually looks kind of interesting too. So that's on the disqualified because those are out. Shows that didn't make the list. I mean, maybe some of these made yours, but shows that did not make the list. Ironheart did not make the list.
I didn't even think about it.
Okay. Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the next Game of Thrones spinoff, did not make the list. There's a couple of shows that I know will be event shows. They're just not my shows. So like the last season of Stranger Things, I know that's a phenomenon. That's just not my show. I feel like I'm a little too old for that show. It's just not my show. Last of Us season 2, I think is going to be a huge deal. It didn't make my list. I'm a little zombied out in some ways, so like that kind of is not my type of thing. And then there's a couple of things in the animated world that I was interested in but didn't quite make the list. Eyes of Wakanda probably was the one I gave the longest look to, but I didn't put it on the list. And then Invincible season 3, which I know is going to be great, but kind of feel like we've talked about Invincible when it came out, so didn't put that on the list. So all of that is like in the ether, not even in like the honorable mention. There's more I could go into, but I did have a couple honorable mentions that I just sort of circling. So if Slow Horses season 5 comes out, which is rumored to come out in the summer, that's a must watch for me. I'll watch anything spy, but I think that's the best spy show on TV, and it never slows down. Gary Oldman, Kristen Scott Thomas, Jack Loudon. I think it's an amazing show. So if that comes back, that's definitely worth checking out. 1923 took me a while to get into in the Sheridan verse, but it ended in a dramatic place. I'm actually pretty excited for season 2 to come out in a couple weeks here. Blade Runner 2099, starring Michelle Yeoh on Amazon, I think is going to be worth a look as well. I'm definitely a fan of that franchise, and Ridley Scott is producing, so I'm at least interested. Zero Day, which is sort of a Netflix thriller series starring Robert De Niro as a former president who was kind of brought back into duty to investigate a massive cyber attack against the world. Great cast, like incredible cast. Like I think like Angela Bassett's in that. There's some really big names coming out in February on Netflix. Miniseries, not a multi-season series. And then The Associate, which is a Guy Ritchie, if you like his style, a Guy Ritchie sort of crime drama starring Tom Hardy, one of his usual kind of cohorts, along with Helen Mirren and Pierce Brosnan coming out later this year. So a crime caper from Guy Ritchie is usually a pretty good source of entertainment. Those were my honorable mentions. Do you want to kick us off with your number 5?
My number 5, believe it or not, and I enjoyed it. At first, I wasn't, I was like, what's this? All right, I'll watch it. And when I watched it, I was like, wow, I enjoyed the take. I enjoyed the performance. And I tend to watch a lot of his things. I've watched pretty much all of his big films. Batman, the Johnny Depp one, the one he's the barber and he killing people. Sweeney Todd. So Tim Burton stuff. And Wednesday was a show that at first I wasn't, again, I understood what it was going towards and the perspective from. And when I saw it, I was just amazed at how well it was done in the performances. So I have that Wednesday season 2 as my number 5.
That's fascinating. So you actually found, now I know the show went viral. Obviously she went viral. The dance went viral. You found the subject matter connected with you just as much as sort of like the younger audience?
I don't know if it necessarily connected to, I would just say I enjoyed the execution.
Okay.
I think that's what really got me more intrigued than anything else. And the performances of each individual as well was, I think, really, really well done. And it was just a great show. And it had me thinking about what if they did Scooby-Doo and Thelma was the one, the lead, and then all these other characters. That would have been dope, but they did something else animated, which was horrible. That no one seemed to like. But yeah, Wednesday season 2 is my number 5.
So that's coming out in the back half of this year. We don't have an official date, but it is. Netflix put out a trailer for their 2025 slate. It is on there, so that is confirmed for the back half of this year. Lady Gaga, the big, probably the big name cast ad for season 2 of that show. I guess trying to rehabilitate her gothic image after the Joker Folie à Deux disaster, which wasn't really her fault. But yeah. So my number 5 is Alien Earth. The only reason it made the 2 reasons it made the list. Number 1 is that Noah Hawley's doing it, and he obviously has done some great TV already with Fargo. He also did what was it, New Mutants? Like that was also a show that he worked on. So he's got me interested. And then the teaser is pretty good. I think the teaser shot that they've been running with that ship crashing to Earth and the xenomorph kind of inside it at least gets you to part of the way to how you would actually have an alien show on Earth, which is kind of what all these movies have always been trying to avoid, right? Is getting the alien back to Earth. And then the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is trying to get it back to Earth. And so we finally get to see an alien show on Earth. Alien franchise, hit or miss, but I feel like Romulus was a step in the right direction. It was a little too hostage to kind of playing the hits of the prior movies, but it was pretty well executed. And it had one, I thought, really cool action sequence. If anyone saw that movie, they did a zero gravity action scene, which I thought was pretty cool, where they were fighting the xenomorphs with it was weightless. Everything was weightless. And that was pretty neat. So that was original. And so I feel like,
I was never an alien guy, but
yeah. So if this TV series kind of does something similarly innovative with the characters and with the IP, I'm interested. So I put that one as my sort of number 5, and it will be coming to Hulu and Disney Plus. I don't think we have a release date for that yet, but it is sometime in 2025. I would say cast is not the biggest name cast, but Timothy Olyphant is probably your biggest name headliner there. So
my number 4 is Reacher.
As my number 3, let's talk about it.
There is no better opportunity to see what Batman would be like outside of this show right here. And they're giving you, if you've seen the trailer for Reacher, this is just makes you think and just envision stuff. But I think his performance in this, and giving the Reacher fans what they expected to see, as if you read the book, because as you all know, the movie with Tom Cruise I liked it.
It's a good movie.
I didn't know what it was based on, but as I read the news about backlash and then understanding why, you can see why. And this guy embodies that character to perfection. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Reacher this year.
100%. So the thing I like about this show so far, and obviously they have a lot of books to choose from. What I like is that this show is not standing still. If you think about the first one, is very much a fish out of water in sort of a small town in the deep South, right? That's the mystery. Second one is a very urban kind of military combat revenge mission, right? That's a very different genre that they tackle. Mm-hmm. I probably enjoyed season 1 slightly more than season 2, but I like that they swung at something, put him in a very different setting. So season 3, what I like about it is he's undercover. We're getting another perspective. He's clearly infiltrating some kind of crime ring. There's someone from his past. And to your point about Batman, I don't know where they found that other dude in the trailer, because that guy's got to be like 7'4" if he's a foot. He's enormous. And just the way they're building, even in the trailer, toward the inevitable fight that's coming between the two of them. I mean, that is like Batman and Bane without the costumes. So it looks incredible. I can't wait. But he's great. Right? To your point, he's great. He is the living embodiment of Lee Child's character, and it has that dark humor. The action is well done, but it's not overused. The mysteries are usually pretty well conceived. Obviously, they have the books to go off of, and they usually find really good supporting cast to kind of fill in. So I think, to your point, this is coming in a couple of weeks near the end of February. I think the bar is high, but this show continues to gather audience. His star power continues to grow. And yeah, we are full on rooting for him to get an opportunity to put the cape and cowl on at some point and be a version of Bruce Wayne in the DCU. That was your number 4, my number 3. My number 4 is probably the other original one I had on the list. It's Criminal. So Criminal is based on a graphic novel series by Ed Brubaker, who of course is working on Cape Crusader right now. Great cast. So you've got Charlie Hunnam as the lead character. Oh. You've got Emilia Clarke, Luke Evans, and our girl from Andor, Adria Arjona, as the female lead. So you got those 4 at the front of this. But the premise is pretty cool. It's sort of a graphic novel that sort of looks at kind of low-level criminals, not boss criminals, but it's sort of the intersection of sort of different crime families and then these murders that sort of wind up connecting them and bringing them into contact. And then you kind of spend time with different ones of the character, different criminals kind of looking at the same crime. I think it's one that should translate well to TV. And like I said, the fact of who's working on it, because Brubaker is working on it. Obviously, he works in TV in addition to being sort of an author, and so he is the showrunner. It is originally a Marvel comic, like way back in the day. That's who he wrote it for. Okay. And like I said, with a great cast. So this also being on Amazon got me interested, because it feels of a piece with The Boys in the sense of like they're going after something that's technically tangential to comic books, but then trying to do something very different with it than we've seen before. So I'm kind of optimistic that combination gives us a new show or a new style of comic book adaptation that feels different and feels new. So that's my number 4. Again, I don't think I have a release date for this, but it's coming. It's definitely confirmed to be coming this year.
My number 3, Brian, is Stranger Things, and I'm going to tell you why. This is the final season, correct?
Yes.
Each episode is feature length.
Yes, I am aware. 2 hours apiece. Yes.
It is the spark of something new that I think people will grab onto to try to attempt with other things. This will be the test of seeing this format if it'll work for other things. And it can work. And this is something that a lot of people, the production is amazing, first of all. The writing, I like the characters. This is the final season, and you just wanting to see how this ends finally.
Yeah.
And they're giving you how many episodes? 6?
It's 6, yeah. But as you said, it's kind of 12, right? Like it's kind of really a 12 episode. Like they're just calling it 6. Like
yeah. But the attempt at this is what got me interested, because I want to see this, how this ends, how this is received, and how big this can or cannot get. So that's my number 3.
Well, I don't think there's any question it's going to be enormous as an event. I think this is probably, I would probably say this is the best bet to be the most watched show this year. I think that would be the betting line for this. I agree with you. We've seen this on individual episode occasion where they'll do the kind of the jumbo episode. But you're right. To do an entire season like this will be sort of an interesting test of budget versus audience. But in the back of my mind, when you said that, I was immediately thinking back to our Wolverine anthology series, and kind of like, if you ever wanted to do that with some 90-minute stories, right? 90 to 100-minute stories that each feel like mini feature films with that character through time. I mean, he lends himself very well to that idea if it works. So, and then if Netflix ever does get around to doing Assassin's Creed, that's the other one that seems like it could be set up well to explore in that way. So, no, I agree. I didn't have it on my list because it's not one of my shows, but I agree it'll probably be the biggest show event of this year. I'm up to my last 2, and I'm playing the hits, man. I saved the last. I'm not messing around, right? I got Daredevil Born Again as my number 2.
Okay, and you got Andor number 1, right?
You got it. Yeah, you got it. There's no. To me, like there's 2. Disney's got it this year. They got the top 2 shows that I care about, and Daredevil Born Again is number 2. I got to be honest. And I think the only reason it's not number 1 is just because of the slight uncertainty over the transition, right? It seems like they fixed it. It seems like they did right by this and got the people back they needed to get back. Kevin got in the room and threw himself in front of whatever the hell was going on originally. And we are going to get not just the spiritual successor to Netflix season 3, which was, let's talk about a series going out on a high point, but we're actually going to get the legitimate successor to season 3, and we're picking up this story sometime later with all of our favorite cast and characters back. I do, and the trailer looks brutal. Like the trailer looks, again, mood wise, it's in the same zip code. I did see something from the showrunners saying they were trying for something a little different, and that is a little bit nervous. See, that to me was the difference between number 1 and number 2, because they basically were kind of saying the Netflix darkness kind of was its own thing, and they kind of wanted to make this a little bit more of a crime story. And I get it, like there's definitely that crime element to Daredevil, but in the back of my mind I was like, are you kind of coding something to tell me this is going to be lighter than I think it should be, and I'm going to be a little bit disappointed that even though it looks like it's brutal, looks like it's R-rated, there's still going to be this sense of you're holding this back relative to the way Netflix feels like it just went all out by the end of that show. So it is my number 2. I can't wait to see it. I don't think it'll be bad. I'm just not 100% sure it's going to be a level up from the classic we got before.
That is my concern as well. I have it as my number 1 because of the moves Kevin Feige made, which was a suggestion that Tracy and I, very, very long time ago, said, just get those guys back. What are we talking about here? And they finally got him back after a few years of meddling with this story and creating 18 episodes that they said they were going to give us. And thank God we didn't see what they did.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think there's a little question as to whether they overcompensated, because the other thing I've read about this show, remember, they went from, in the original iteration, supposedly he wasn't even doing anything Daredevil for the first 3 to 4 episodes of what was an 18 episode season, now 9. What I read is that they went the other way with the retooling, and there's way more action than there was in the Netflix one, which one of the things that they wanted to reduce, which I kind of disagree with, was they didn't want as many long form conversations between the main characters kind of about their lives. And I know you love the rooftop conversation between Daredevil and Punisher. And all I could think about when they said that was, are you saying that you don't think that was additive to the show? Like, you want to de-emphasize that so you can give us, albeit could be very good fight choreography. You just want to give us more fight choreography. Yeah, because if you go too far in that direction, this is not John Wick. This is Matt Murdock's story is not a John Wick story. There's more layers here to that. So that's the other thing I'm a little bit worried. Like, are we going to feel like this is almost, we're being force fed action set pieces and we're losing a little bit of the power of the dialogue?
If dudes are falling down the stairs for 10, 15 minutes, I don't want to see fighting for the sake of fighting. There has to be some understanding of a situation happening, and they have to sort of think about it. I'm wanting to see John Bernthal's performance again and see how he has changed, or what is he doing now? Is he a barber? What is he doing now? So there are elements to this that I definitely do want to see. The comments that the showrunner or someone made about them comparing themselves to Penguin was off-putting, because you shouldn't be comparing yourself to the Penguin. I don't know if you read that, Brian.
I did. That's a false premise. Like, you're worrying about the wrong thing.
Exactly. And so it was a struggle between Andor and Daredevil, but because of what I was left with, which I thought was excellent TV in Daredevil season 3, hopefully they can continue that. Andor, I know what I'm expecting. I don't think I'm seeing, because I know I'm not going to see a season 3, right? This is the end.
That's why it's number one.
Spectacular first season, yes.
Yeah. So this is, to me, this is why it deserves to be number one, because this is, in the last, count them, however many years, in the genres we most care about, I think this is the best product that's been put on television. I think this is it. This is the gold standard in our genres. I think it did everything you would want. It took an IP that felt lost and felt kind of one note, and it found a lane to reinvent that in a way that was compelling. It took the idea of a prequel, which is inherently difficult to do because you kind of know where the main character is going to get to, and it somehow made that compelling. Yeah. It looked amazing because it wasn't done in the volume. It was real. When they saved the action, but when they used the action, they gave you this amazing space chase with sort of that colors in the sky. They gave you like a real Jason Bourne spycraft finale of him drifting in and out without being detected amidst the battle scene. And then you had amazing acting from everyone involved. This was everyone 10 out of 10. From people you knew, would deliver. Diego Luna, you already knew. Stellan Skarsgård, never bad. But then Genevieve O'Reilly got to really flex as Mon Mothma. This is it. I understand some people are going to say, it's not my Star Wars because it doesn't have lightsabers, doesn't have that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, no matter how wrong it is. So, it's just, to me, this is a classic. And the fact that it has a defined ending, it knows where it needs to go, but we're going to spice it up a little bit because we're going to do 4 segments, 3 episodes at a time, representing 1 year at a time to get from where we were to where we need to get to at the start of Rogue One. I think again, if I'm laying odds, Stranger Things will be the most watched thing this year, but I still think the odds on favorite to be the best thing you see on TV this year is Andor season 2.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So yeah, that's our top 5 anticipated shows, and we did it in almost record time.
You know what was missing this year? And I went and searched long and hard for it. This is a down year for animation.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean,
like I said, it just is. After last year where you got, right, Blue Eye, X-Men 97, Cape Crusader, and sort of like a 7-month span. Like, that's why I said, like, Invincible season 3 is your gimme. That's like you're getting there. That's gonna be fine. We'll talk about Friendly Neighborhood. That's gonna be an interesting conversation. But like, there isn't a lot else on the calendar. Netflix, I know the biggest thing I could find that people seem hyped about, which I don't know anything about, is Devil May Cry. That's a video game adaptation, kind of anime that they're doing in April. People seem hyped for that. I don't know much about it. But like Eyes of Wakanda, I'm definitely curious because it's Coogler's involved. They're doing a different style of animation for that. I'm curious, but it's short. There's only 4 episodes for that. That's like a really small series.
Interesting.
But then beyond that, it's like, Marvel Zombies, not my thing. Like, DC obviously had Creature Commandos, but they're not, I'm not a big Harley Quinn person. Like, that's coming back, but that's not really for me. So there's not a lot that's like big, new, and there's no Blue Eye equivalent. There's really not anything like that being put out there this year. So it's kind of a lull before we get the 2026 looks to be a monster year for animation again. So
yeah. So let us know in the comment section below, what are your top 5 shows for this year? It'll be interesting to see what you guys have on your list. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think, and we'll see you next time on the Nudge Report.